Unlearned Unlimited. Unlearned Unlimited.
Welcome to Unlearned Unlimited podcast. My name is Dr. Sito, Narcisse, and I got my co-host
Tatiana, Echevarria.
And it's going to be a banger for you. We got Dr. Donald Fennoy in the house. Dr. Fennoy, former superintendent of Palm Beach County and visionary who does a whole lot of stuff around the country, doing big stuff. We're super excited. He took some time out of his schedule to do that. We're actually at the MCEL conference here in Orlando, the national convening where they for men of color in educational leadership doing great stuff. Donald, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, I got to give a shout out to our sponsors because, we get paid for coming out here. So big shout out to Centegix, who is doing security work across the entire nation, working with school districts across the country that does a lot of work. And a lot of also some of the districts are actually here at the convening. So, we always got to make sure we pay the bills, Donald,
Understood.
But we're just super excited that we're able to get Dr. Fennoy here, who has not only, I always say you're like one of those quiet background folks. I don't want to use the American Gangster Frank Lucas thing because that has a negative connotation to it. But there's people in the back room that help move things for good work of kids in the country, and Dr. Fennoy is one of them. And so, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. So we're going to start off. We got a couple of questions we want to ask you about education, where education is going. But before we do that, the number one thing we always ask all the time is to tell us about your journey. And the best people we learn that could tell you about themselves is themselves.
Okay. We
used to read, I don't know, back in the day, the first couple of shows, we used to read everybody's resume. And they were like, wait a minute, we'd be like...
It's boring.
Yeah, then we started to figure out, let them tell about themselves. And, because people don't know why you do what you do and what made you get to where you get to, what's the story, right? So we said, let them tell them about that. And people, our audience love it. So we said, all right, let's keep doing it.
Okay. Well, again, thank you for having me. I'm the proud son of a man who spent 22 years in the U.S. military. My parents are from Detroit, Michigan, so we're a bunch of blue-collar folks that worked in the plants. And my great-grandfather, whose high school diploma hangs in my office, graduated from the Negro Industrial High School in Birmingham, Alabama in 1921.
Wow,
and then
that's
took
beautiful.
the family to Detroit. And so that's sort of my roots. We're blue-collar folks that just work, and I was the first to go off to college. My dad got back from Desert Storm. I didn't want to go to college per se, but I had an older cousin who unfortunately is now doing life in prison, was in the band at Florida A&M University, and so I wanted to be in the band. And so once I saw
You
them,
wanted to be one of the Marching 100.
No, I am in the 100.
I love that. Shout out to my Tallahassee crew because I'm a Florida State grad. Okay, we're across the tracks. I also wanted to ask you, do you also shout Palm Beach? Since you spent some time there. No, you're not part of the Palm Beach crowd?
No, I keep it low. I keep it low.
Tell her put some respect on your name. You should have FSU, man.
But,
I love that. So you are part of the Marching 100.
I am part of the Marching 100, and my father, when he retired from the military, he joined a program called Troops to Teachers.
Okay.
And so that was my first introduction into education. When I went to Tallahassee, let's just say pledging and having a good time was more important than going to school. Okay. So I ended up having to leave, and I went and worked in a steel plant for a while. The family decided, well, if you don't want to work with your brain, you can work with your hands, there's no shame in that. Which is why I'm so passionate about, career and technical education. Having a skill, and I think that's very important in today's society. But I did my finished school. I was selected by the Department of Defense. I did my student teaching in Hohenfels, Germany, right outside of Nuremberg, one of the few in the nation, and then started teaching in Orlando. I became a high school principal when I was 28 in Charlotte, North Carolina. My school was accused of committing academic genocide. But in 4 years, we became one of the highest performing urban high schools in the nation.
Can you tell us what that means?
Well, no kids.
In layman's terms.
No kids were graduating. They had 27 security guards in this high school. So I show up as a 28-year-old driving a car with TVs and rims on it. And
wait, did you just say rims?
Wait, hold on. Let's go back. TVs and rims. Okay, now that we going throwback. We going throwback.
If you look at the CNN special on it, they did a feature of me on some of my cars on there.
We're gonna go back and look for that picture.
Yeah,
we might need to put. That might be what we put up for your introduction.
Well, I'm a car collector, so. I build cars and I collect them. But yeah, we did that and graduated from school. And like I said, started teaching in Orlando. Became assistant principal when I was 24, high school principal at 28. Received the National School of Change Award in 2010. Then I went on to run a program called New Leaders for New Schools, where I trained principals for Baltimore City and Prince George's County. Yeah. Then I was asked to be the senior area superintendent of Fulton County Schools, so I ran 50 schools from East Point down to Fairburn. Yeah. Then I became a Broad Academy Fellow in 2014-15. The superintendent of Palm Beach, Robert Avosa, needed someone to be the chief operating officer. I was one of the few black chief operating officers in the nation. 18 months later, I became the superintendent right after the Parkland shooting. And then 12 months later, COVID happened and it got us through that. And then, which was tough, as you know, Sito. And then I was recruited by a lot of people to do something different. And I've been consulting and doing a lot of very interesting things for the last 4 years.
So talk about what has been your journey post, working in the public education space. Mm-hmm. What has been some of the unlearning you've had to do transitioning outside of public education and now kind of doing this consultancy work? Mm-hmm. And what also led you to be here as part of the MCEL initiative?
Mm-hmm. Well, let me start with that. So I'm a original member of MCEL before it was MCEL. It was called DELT, Developing Educational Leaders of Tomorrow. Oh, wow. When we were,
so you're a throwback.
Yeah. I'm talking about 25 years ago.
And it's been 25 years?
Yeah, we started.
So the original group was, say that again?
Developing Educational Leaders of Tomorrow. It's like 5 of us that were brand new. To be honest with you, we were brand new. We were teachers, and Harrison had just become an administrator. Someone we looked up to from FAM had gotten into some trouble. I did something with one of his guidance counselors, and he got in some trouble. The problem was that the accusations weren't true, but he lost his principalship because of that. So we started DELT because we're a bunch of young, unmarried men just to keep ourselves out of trouble. Yeah. And that's exactly how we started.
So 5 of you started this thing 25 years ago, literally a quarter of a century ago. I mean, that might sound kind of excessive, but here we are. Mm-hmm. And that's the whole now.
That's the origin story.
That's the origin story behind what is now MCEL.
And when Harrison became superintendent in Providence, I was superintendent in Palm Beach. He decided to formalize it, and I'm on the board now. Okay. And we were very thankful. We made him a paid CEO, and we've been raising money. We went from a 15-member convening 9 years ago to what you see today.
And today you have over 200
people at the convening, and thousands of members.
And thousands that are members. Yep, okay, so now talk to me a little bit about what you've had to unlearn as part of your journey from public education to now doing the work that you're doing now.
What I had to unlearn is that everything that you use in the school system aren't just tools. They're businesses.
Oh, interesting.
Say more.
So whether it's the desk, the air conditioning, the buses on the tire, curriculum, a school as a superintendent at the end of their board meeting, you sign contracts. And what I realized as chief operating officer, very few of those dollars went to people that look like us. Mm-hmm. When I think about the educational entrepreneurship, how are new things created for the kids in the systems that we run, very few of them are created by people that look like us. And so when given an opportunity, I was recruited out to start considering the private sector. I suffered from imposter syndrome in the beginning. I didn't understand why they were asking me, why do you want to build a business around Donald Fennoy? Because I don't speak a lot, I don't do social media, but I think a lot.
Is that why he called you American gangster? You in the back?
Listen. First, let me just, I don't want to get down on no trouble. I say it as a comedy. Do not go run
I'm
that.
I'm a very private person.
He's a private.
I'm a very private person.
But a very smart guy. And what I say is, you're one of those folks that I know that people trying to figure out what to do for kids, politics, operate, they always call him. Like what nobody tells you is you build a network, and over time, you can hang out with them, but you're one of the most respected people in the country. And so when people think about education or how to do things for kids or any idea that they do, they call you, right? And so, and that's just the reality. And I think in every field you got that, right?
Yeah, so I've created a very unique ecosystem from people who own companies to people who start companies, people who run school systems, people who are aspiring. So I'm connected in every facet. And that allows me to have a very broad network from the federal government all the way down to custodians. Like I tell people, I have a lot of friends in low places. When I led as a superintendent, I would talk to the head of my custodian, put him at the executive table, because you know better how to keep these schools safe during COVID than those of us in the C-suite.
That's right.
Now we obviously have a value, but I believe in flattened organizations. I want the most talented people at the table, and my job is to take the bullet so y'all can go to work. That's how my dad fought in wars. So it was in my grandfather's. I'm a very, very blessed man. My grandparents are still living. My parents have been married for 50 years. My grandparents have been married for over 65 years. So I know, again, not being disrespectful, but I understand how men are supposed to lead families. I understand how I was taught watching my father in the military. I watched my amazingly smart mother and grandmothers support us and lead in their own world, understanding that it is a partnership. And leadership requires you to have people around you that are smarter and better than you. And so, you know, I'm a very confident person, but I'm also humble enough to know what I don't know. And that's what I try to impose upon all my fellows that I work with in all the programs, whether it's Broad, Pahara, MCEL, is just because you're in the seat, the people have to give you the power.
That's right.
The seat means nothing if the people aren't following you. And so I learned that very early on, and that's how I've always led. And now I'm just in a position where every decision that I make, whether it was in the system or now in the private sector, I only make decisions in the best interest of kids. That's the job. Unfortunately, politics is a part of it. So I also am very clear that I live in the world as it is, not as the world should be. So that allows me to not get blindsided by rose-colored glasses or this halo effect. And then that helps me navigate and help other people navigate the reality of the moment to prepare themselves for greatness on the back end.
So I'm gonna ask you something that's different, right? You've been in school systems, both public sector for school systems and private sector with businesses and philanthropists and all that. And you've always had a way, at least from my perspective, on getting people who invest in dollars, invest in the right things to do projects in schools, K-12 systems. Doesn't matter whether public, charter, whatever their context is, right? If you were now, from what you know now with your experience, if you were trying to help leaders, whether they're superintendents, C-suites, board members, whatever position, to try to help those companies to help them figure out ways to move the ball for kids, what would be your advice to them? Because I mean, I bring this up because we know sitting in these seats, you always got to educate folks and do all this stuff. But the reality is you need funding to do stuff, and just funding from the school system alone or from the taxpayers is not sufficient.
I think the advice that I give, or maybe one of my superpowers, is authenticity. Stop putting on a show. You know, speak your truth, be honest about what you know, what you don't know, and also seek advice from the people closest to this problem, right? Like, so if I'm building a company, I need to be hiring the best teachers in the world to do that work, right? Like, I fundamentally don't believe in titles. I mean, I've had many titles, but I deal with talent. You know what I'm saying? I want really smart people. And so as companies are evolving, AI is taking over, and I'm knee deep in all of the AI stuff. What I would love to see, like in my own alma mater, Florida A&M, I want to see more educational entrepreneurship programs. Like, you taught me how to be a teacher, but you never taught me how to build a business, right? So I think that'll help sustain how long people stay in the career if they understood that there are other ways. My parents, again, I'm from Detroit, so everybody worked in the plants to get a pension. Those pensions were not designed for you to live a long life after that.
No, absolutely
They were designed to work you to death and maybe get 5 years out of that. So you done worked all this time, right? But these young people, they ain't going for that. They'll switch a job every 6 months if you allow them to. So how do you take a super smart person that wants to be in education, has a passion for kids, but also teach them how to take their idea and monetize it, to create a prototype, to create a pitch, sit in front of people to see if you can get investment. What does that mean? Intellectual property, because there's a lot of thieves out here, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm a street kid at heart, so the hustle is real. And so
you got street corporate dudes.
Well, it's the same game.
It's not any different.
It's the same game at every level. It's the exact same game. And I think that's very important for people to understand. But never sacrifice quality for any relationship. You want anybody that's ever worked for me. I never made people come to PD. I would tell my teams, you build the best PD in the world, and they'll want to come. And if they don't want to come, it's because you didn't build high quality. Now go back to the drawing board until the people are demanding to come participate. And that's just the way I've always kind of looked at the world.
Now I want to pivot a little bit to talk about MCEL and pathways and what you guys are trying to accomplish as we consider, this great extinction that is possible with just the trends that education is undergoing right now. What is your biggest goal with the work in creating these pathways through MCEL and overall just representation?
So kids? First of all, we as the board fully support the vision of our fearless leader, Harrison Peters. So yes, the extinction level event is very plausible. As an individual and member of the board and a member of MCEL, I want these men to be healthy. And when I say healthy, I mean like mentally healthy, physically healthy. I've lost 100 pounds over the last 5 years. I'm a better father because of that. I have a 9-year-old daughter who will love me unconditionally, and I want to be there to walk her down the aisle one day. Absolutely. And so when I come to these meetings, yes, the educational work is important, but you're not going to be a great leader if your family isn't whole, if you're not whole. And I think for men in particular, especially those of us in Generation X, you're not taught to share your emotions and your feelings. And so you find yourself sometimes at night just talking to yourself when you need to be talking to somebody. Absolutely. And that's what MCEL provides for. That's what it did for me for 25 years. I could call Harrison and say, I got this board meeting coming up and I think they're going to try to fire me. I'm scared. Can you give me some advice? And there was no judgment. And we're both 6'4". He's 250, I'm 300, right? But I couldn't say that to the world. And I'm trying to be hard for my wife. And then I learned I didn't have to be hard for my wife. She wanted me to be vulnerable so she could support me. I think if you can help that man become whole in this very challenging work, as Pedro just said, in a system that wasn't designed for us to be in or lead. Absolutely. Then and having a support system and a network. I mean, I'm a fraternity guy. I've been a Mason since I was 18. I'm in 5 or 6 different fraternities. And again, I'm still a very private person, but I can walk into a room and just woo-sah. We have a common bond, a common language, a common understanding.
You're in a space where you feel seen, and
safe.
Yeah.
Right? Like a lot of times our female counterparts use those words, but it's applicable in our world too. We just don't say it out loud. And the reason we created MCEL so you can say it out loud and it's okay.
So before you even get to the space of talent pathways and keeping these individuals in the job, you're we need to take care of them holistically before we even get there. I mean, it's basic Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Right. I mean, basic at the fundamental.
Think about it. We're just big kids. So when kids come into your bed and if they're hungry, they can't learn. If they're scared, if they're traumatized, if they're walking down the street in the winter in Chicago with no gloves on we got to take care of people. We're in the people business and we are people. And I think sometimes society, patriarchy, whatever, these false notions of manhood and strength. No, I struggle too. And as soon as I recognize that, it made me a much better leader.
I'm going to pivot us a little bit because I know we don't have a lot of time. I want to ask you some questions around this AI space, right? You've been knee deep in it in a lot of different ways from all types of spaces, right? What is one, let me ask this in two different spectrums. One, what's your biggest fear around where we are now? And what is the biggest solution you think that we need to be thinking about to accelerate in this space?
My biggest fear is that communities that have high levels of poverty, communities of color, are not understanding its impact to our lives fast enough. And people in leadership, if I had my way, most politicians would be under 50 years old. Just because I think,
that's going to be very controversial.
I don't care.
You look at Congress like 100
how are you going to create laws for tools you don't even know how to use? And these things are life-changing, bro. And so I'm afraid of that. Again, I've been playing with the chat GTPs for 4 or 5 years now. I get access to a lot of places, a lot of CEOs of some very big companies, some of the big 7. And I think the average citizen put it like this. When the internet came out, I was a freshman in college in '94. So barely had an email address people at Florida State have, and we didn't have it fam. But it took almost 7 years please fact check this, but I think it took almost 7 years for them to get to 100 million users of the internet.
Wow.
With ChatGPT, it took months. So it's going so fast. Like we're at a period of what we call exponential growth. And a lot of communities, rural communities, communities of color, a lot of communities in poverty, when it first started rolling out, you would see the big schools just, we're gonna ban it because the kids were cheap. But in the private sector, in private schools,
they were running with it.
It was part of the curriculum. You know, you look at what's going on in China now. Kindergartners, they need to know basic coding from the beginning, know a little about basic LLMs. So my fear is that we're going to be so caught up. Put it like this: I think as much as you guys are on a social media platform, our community spends more time worrying about pop culture than worrying about the future of work and how to make money and the realities of artificial intelligence. I've shown my mother and some of my grandparents videos created by AI, and they don't realize that this is not real.
I had that conversation with my mom as well. She doesn't realize that some of the things that she's looking at online are generated by AI,
Right.
and they are fictitious. Like
Right.
this is not, but it is what she is having the most access to now. It's not things that are factual. It is fiction.
Yes.
100%. Yes.
And I think that what that lends itself to is the potential. And again, we can't stop it, but I think we could put some parameters around it. You're going to see very soon people having like full-on romantic and relationships with a robot or just their phone, right? Because the way it interacts, it learns. You remember now, communication is just, we're all very consistent in our patterns.
Yeah, that's right.
So if you have a significant other, they know you after a while.
That's right.
This tool is collecting all of that data. So when you ask it a question, it's going to feed you what you want to hear.
That's right.
Right. So after a while, you start to believe this. You're in this silo, right? And there's a lot of evidence of really bad things happening with young people because the technology is just a technology. So, you know, we talk about suicide ideation, all these things. Sometimes it takes a human. It takes a mother's intuition to step in and say, no, baby, come on and sit down.
Yeah.
Versus a computer who's just trying to please you, right? So that's on one front. I think these are tools to use to enhance your abilities, but you got to have abilities to enhance, right?
Right.
And so I think if we're not careful, communities of color, communities of poverty, rural communities, because their lives are sort of consistent this way, they're not going to see this whole world that's moving at a pace. Put it like, here's my example at the ground floor. Again, I'm a car collector. I build cars. I have a 1975 Pontiac Granville convertible with Dayton's and Bogues on it on one side of my garage. And I just bought my wife a 2025 Cadillac Lyric. The technology is so different. Like when the steering wheel turns green in her EV, you can let go. You can't do that with the 75.
No, you gotta
So,
be handful.
but I want you to think about how much has changed in only 50 years. Like, it sounds like a lot of time. That's not a lot of time in the grand arc of time. You know, I just got back from Ghana and South Africa doing some work, and those people are hungry. But again, I think for us, if we're not careful, if we don't start to educate ourselves and educate our communities on AI, it's because you can't stop it. Is my point. Right. You can't stop it.
You know, the thing I was just thinking about when you talk about Africa. Africa got their countries are some of the fastest growing GDPs in the world, right? And
a bunch of young people.
And I told folks, like, you know, what we talk about, what they talk about is two different planets, right? So the question to the solution space, where do you think that people need to be thinking about to help solve some of these heavy issues that you think some of these communities are going to have struggle in long term?
Well, I think, first of all, it's going to have to be a community effort. You know, our churches, our families, our schools, our parents. I think we're going to have to figure out a way to get more thought leaders in front of the right people. I think inside of an education system, we need to give our kids not only a quality education on the basics, which I think is also part of the problem. Like, could we teach them how to read? Can we teach them how to read?
Right.
If we get that right, then the rest of it can go a lot easier.
Yeah.
But simultaneously, we need to expose our young people earlier to some of these new technologies. Let them play with it. Let them make mistakes with it. and our educators. Like, I'm actually at a place now where I wonder sometimes, can the technology be the person of record? And then we start to hire people from the community that actually want to be around kids and give them some sort of additional credential and let the expertise come from the technology. But you have people, because remember now, when I turned around my high school, I found people that the first thing I did was, are you scared of my kids? Because you can't be here if you're scared of them.
Yeah,
so if me and Sito standing at this door and you walk all the way around the building to go to your classroom and Sito, when you can't work here, walk up to Sito and Donald, say hello. I bet you they'll say hello back. Let's start with basic humanity.
You know, it's crazy you say that, because I remember when I was going through the process of hiring folks, like there were a lot of, especially I was in some tough schools, but they didn't want to be there, but they were like, I need a job. And I was like,
no.
This is the wrong
place for you to do that, because the thing about when you in those classrooms, if the kid senses you don't like them,
they ain't gonna do
it's
that.
downhill from there.
Absolutely. Or afraid of them.
But adults are no different. If an adult feel that you have no interest in them,
Right.
they're not going to show you no love back. It's just, I mean, I don't know why the principles don't change, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting how we can detach ourselves from certain things, from a child to an adult. And so I want to ask you another question around this whole AI piece. The reason I want to keep pushing on this is because what we're trying to always do in the Unlearned Unlimited podcast, we talk about the class of education and culture, but we want to educate those that are listening to us. Like, there are solutions on how to solve this. You need to be thinking differently about that, right? So we find you as one of those innovators that are always thinking about things differently, that bring the sector of K-12 education and business together, right? Around a common goal. What would you say, like, I don't know, if I'm somebody watching this and I'm a business and I don't know how to help a school or how to engage with whoever, right, around trying to help support, what should be the things I should be thinking about to try to do that? And on the vice versa, and if I'm a leader trying to figure that out, what should I do?
Well, I think one, you have to acknowledge, what the problem is, and making sure whatever the solution that you're creating is of the highest quality, and not just a replication of something that doesn't work. But like, you really truly try to be innovative. Like, if all of us were in a space trying to come up with a new business idea, every idea matters. Throw it all on the wall. 90% of them are going to fail. Like, part of, I think, our community's problem sometimes is we don't want to try because we're afraid of the failure. Failure is part of the process. It's actually required to get to the excellence. You got to go through those steps.
Can I add something you're saying? I don't even think it's the failure sometimes. I think it's the failure of them worrying about what people going to say about them in the failure.
Well, that's part of the failure. Like, you have to go through the steps. Like make it basic.
Yeah.
If you have children, the baby, when they first start, they're going to fall.
That's right.
But they learn from that fall. Right.
Or riding a bike. Like, I mean, think about any of that.
Touching a hot stove. After you do it one or two times,
you learn not to do that.
Right? And so, but then you also learn, but if I want to eat, which is the end goal, I have to learn how to turn it on.
Yes.
Right, there's the proper utilization.
When I was a kid, you had to get a match and turn on the gas and hope it didn't blow up. It's a process, right? At my grandmama's house.
That may have aged you a little bit. We won't talk about that.
Look, I'm an old 49. But so I think that's part of it is risk aversion is a big, because again, the safety and security of a good job is just part of who we are in our DNA. That's right. But you got to have you have to be not risk averse in order to try the next steps so that you can ultimately become an owner. And when you become an owner, you decide the path of your company. You decide the steps to move your family to generational wealth. You decide how to pivot to meet the needs of the kids that you want to serve. But as long as you work for somebody else in that space, you got to do what they tell you to do.
Well, I think it's a reframe, though, because when you come from particular backgrounds like the ones we're talking about, sometimes the economic mobility is just survival. Like, I just need to survive. So I may not be trying to ruffle feathers. Right. I may not be trying to innovate, because right now what is in front of me is that I need a steady income. I just need something to bring in. So while I see that there are public school issues, I see that their kids, 1/3 of them are proficient, which means the other 2/3 are not. I may have ideas for that, but I'm really thinking pure survival.
Right.
Like,
and there's nothing wrong with that.
Right. But now it's a reframe.
But let's find the people who don't necessarily relate to that and elevate them. So like I always used to frame it when I was in schools or leading is I never wasted my time with people that weren't performing. See, I spend my time with high performers because I want them to give me more.
That's right.
Yes.
When you spend time with poor performers, you just it's draining you, and your high performers, they need your support.
That's right.
So I attribute a lot of my success to spending my time with great people, not the poor performers.
It's like relationships, man.
Well, yeah, I think there's like that 80-20 rule. Like, are you going to spend your 80% of your time, like, are you going to waste your time on the 20 that will never jump on the bandwagon, that will never do the things that you ask them to do, that will always be the naysayers or whatnot? Or are you going to focus your energy on that 80% that are willing to try, that are willing to take the risk and things of that nature? That's what I hear you say there.
So we got two more things to wrap up.
Okay.
We're going to do me and Tatiana call us a rapid fire question.
Yes.
Okay. And then at the end, we're going to ask you, we ask everybody at the end of every question is like, what would you tell your younger self, right, 10 years from now? So those are going to be two different questions. We do rapid fire first. You got to just come up with quick answers, right? Tatiana will go and ask those questions. And then, the last question we're going to ask you is that.
I'm going to keep this short and sweet here. Who inspires you the most today in the education sector?
Who inspires me most today? My children.
And why is that?
My son, he's a 16-year-old African-American boy who scored a perfect score on the ACT in reading and English and missed one question on math.
No big deal.
So overall score was 35 out of 36.
No big deal.
So he's my hero.
Awesome.
And my baby girl, who's equally as smart, but she just loves me so much. So she can do anything she wants. So they inspire me.
I love that for her. I love that for her. Okay, one more. If you could go back to your first day as a principal, what's one piece of advice you would give your younger self?
One, take care of my health, which was very important. And I think two, I'm very quiet and kind of private, and I would do a better job of building network. I have an amazing network, but that's because of God. It wasn't because it was intentional. And I just happened to fall into all these fellowship programs across the nation, but I would be more intentional about making friends. I just
overall like building a network for yourself.
Yeah.
I think there is definitely a myth about sometimes like the more accolades you have, the further you'll get. But oftentimes it really is who you rub elbows with and who you have as part of your network that will get you to your next opportunity, that will open that next door for you. You want to be in the rooms with people that talk about you when you're not in the room.
Absolutely.
And we'll talk about you positively. That's a whole. And maybe negatively too, but we can talk about that later. All right, here, closing out.
All right, so three things you would tell the younger Donald Fennoy in his like early 20s, about to get his career going, because you got a lot of experience, right? You learn a whole lot of stuff, right? Say you only got three things. I know sometimes we have to give numbers to this because people be giving us a laundry list. Give us the top three. I don't care what sector that you would say, hey, if you do this, and this, my brother, you are going to survive and navigate even better.
One, spend more time understanding the game.
Okay.
So that you can understand that it is a game. It was a long time before I realized it was a game. Two, make sure home is good. I've been married 24 years, but I'm not going to tell you it's been easy because I always put work first for a long time. So that'd be two. And I think three, take a moment to celebrate the win. I don't like accolades, and it might be just something with my own neurodivergency. I just kind of, I don't want to hear that. And I think it's okay to say that I did a good job. And a lot of us just are really hard on ourselves, and maybe it's a deficit mindset that I had for a long time, and maybe that drove me. But I'm so much happier once I'm able to celebrate others and they can celebrate me.
Listen, Words of wisdom from Dr. Donald Fennoy. Listen, we appreciate you coming out, Donald. We really we love the great work you're doing. Just love the great thing you're doing across the nation in education. If you like our show, I know some of you are on TikTok Live. Make sure you share, like, subscribe. You can find us on all the social media platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, you name it. If you want to give us contributions, please do so. We will, if you have any questions for Dr. Fennoy, the one thing we love to do is send those questions to our guests. They tend to communicate. Most of the time when we engage with our guests, they love to engage with people, so don't be shy. Make sure you find us again on all the platforms. Our episode is sponsored by Centegix. Centegix is a company that does security across the nation in all of the K-12 school districts across the nation and other spaces. Please check them out. We're really appreciative of their contribution to the work in our education space. Tatiana, I think we got another banger.
That's right.
Dr. Fennoy, we appreciate you, brother.
All right,
let's go. Unlearned Unlimited. We out.
Unlimited, unlimited, unlimited. Unlimited, unlimited, unlimited.